Hello. Today I'd like to take you through using the S.T.A.F system in the field. Now, I found a wonderful oak tree to use as an example today. Most of you will be familiar with the identification features of an oak tree, and therefore it's a good example to use to show you how the S.T.A.F system is applied out in the field.
That's a really big tree.
S. Season, situation and soil. We find ourselves today in early autumn, where the leaves of the tree are just beginning to change colour, as you can see on the oak tree here. At this time of year, we still have the leaves for identification, as well as hopefully some of the fruits of the tree, the acorns you'll be familiar with. So we'll be looking for those as well. So situation. Now this tree stands alone and isolated in an arable farmland, which is quite a common feature within the British landscape, and often oak trees especially will be left within this landscape. Oak trees are common throughout the British Isles, and you could find them in towns almost anywhere other than the Highlands. And that makes it a good tree for us to use for this introduction to the S.T.A.F system. Now we come to soil. This is the place to be looking for debris from the tree to use for identification. Already in this small area here I have some acorns that have probably fallen this year, and dead leaves. Now on an oak tree these tend to rot down quite slowly, so these could have even been some from last year, but probably most likely again from this year. It's very important for winter identification, and in certain trees the debris will be used all through the winter. I've also got some dead twigs as well, which when it comes to bud arrangements is going to be an important feature for us when it comes to identification, especially if you can't reach the crown. This is where you'll be looking in the soil. Now we come to T, which is trunk. As you can see here, I've measured the girth of this oak tree to give us a rough estimate of the age. This comes to 4.8 metres on this particular tree, and with oaks we can say 1.2 centimetres to every year. So this tree could be perhaps 400 years old, which, as you can imagine, is rather a mature specimen. Now when it comes to measuring the girth of the tree with regards to the age, some trees will grow faster than others, and it also is affected by the situation that the tree is in. So the use of 1.2 centimetres does not apply to all trees. As well as aging a tree, size can be an important feature in regards to identification, because many species just simply will not reach this size. Now, this is a rough bark tree, which would be obvious to as soon as you touch it. This can be a distinguishing feature when it comes to identification the more familiar you become with various bark structures. But at this stage, just the simple fact that it's not smooth, or it's clearly not flaking away, is the main identification feature you should consider. Okay, now I'm going to take some samples for closer identification in the study. Before we go on to arrangement, I need to take a step back from this use of the S.T.A.F system in the field to bring ourselves again to species. Now, before I referred to the main distinctions between a broadleaf and a conifer, but the point of these videos really is to allow you to understand the difference between completely having no knowledge of a tree, or just seeing it as a conifer or a broadleaf, and to understand families or genuses of trees. This will take you from being a complete novice to understanding the majority of trees around you. So when we come to the more detailed analysis that we're about to undertake for arrangement and flowers and fruits and leaves, it is an understanding of the families of trees and their main identification features that we're looking for. That finally is followed by a even more detailed understanding of the minutest of features to understand the individual species within those families. Fortunately in this country though, we have a rather small number of families of trees. So if you understand the most common trees within our landscape, you can also begin to appreciate the most common families that you're likely to encounter. Now we'll go on to arrangement. Okay, here we have a sample that I've taken from the tree in the field, of which I've removed the majority of leaves so we can look at the stem. The first thing you'll notice, or want to notice, is the arrangement of buds on the stem. Now these leaf buds, as you can see, are arranged alternately. One here, on the opposite side there's another, and a third. So we can see from this we have an alternate bud arrangement. The second thing I'd like you to notice is here we have the apical bud. This is the bud from where each year's growth will come as the stem elongates. An interesting thing to note on this sample is you can see each year's growth. This year's growth is the green part of the twig here, which we then come to where the stem started growing in the spring from this apical bud last year, all along till the second year's apical growth. So that's 1 year's worth of growth there. These are interesting things to notice as regards to understanding how a stem grows and how the tree itself grows. Now we come to F for foliage. Here I have a leaf that I took as a sample. The first thing to notice is the size. This leaf here is between 6 and 7 inches, which is quite large for an oak leaf. And now obviously you're going to get a great variation of size of leaves on a single tree, but it's the general size of the leaves that you're looking for here. Probably the most important identification feature for this family is the outline of the leaf. As we saw before, this is lobed, but in oak trees this lobed formation is very distinctive, and you're probably already familiar with it. The main variations we see between this tree, which is the common oak, and the sessile oak or the turkey oak in regards to foliage will be variations within this outline. The red oak, for instance, will have sharp points toward the end of the lobes. But as regards to the oak family, it is the outline which is the main identification feature. Some other things you may notice from this leaf is a matte underside and a glossy top side, as well as a lack of hairs along the veins of the leaf, which I don't know if you may be able to see there. In other varieties of tree this is often an important identification feature. Here you can note some of the variations you may get of a single tree. Finally, we bring ourselves to fruits. Here I have a selection of acorns taken from the field. The first thing to note as regards to these acorns is this stalk. This is the most important identification feature to distinguish the common oak from the sessile oak. two of which are the most common species you'll find on these islands. This is a positive identification feature for the common oak as regards to the sessile oak. You may find other identification features useful when it comes to these fruits, as regards to the turkey oak, for instance, where you will have variations in the acorn cup. There may also be large variations in the size of the acorns. Now, these acorns here are off a single tree, and that itself is not a good identification feature. However, how the cup envelops the oak can be an important identification feature with the more obscure varieties of tree. But when it comes to the oak family, as I said, the two most common trees you'll encounter are the sessile and the common oak, and the two can be distinguished by this stalk from the cap. Okay, well that concludes my presentation to using the S.T.A.F system in the field. I'm hoping that through this video you're starting to appreciate the small identification features that you're looking for to distinguish the various families that are common to the British landscape, and also that you're maybe developing a more systematic approach to tree identification, which will aid you indefinitely when it comes to the more complicated varieties that we have. And also I'm hoping that in this understanding of trees that we will have a greater appreciation of the trees around us, and therefore will be more likely to preserve such specimens even as the one that I have behind me, which even in death is a wonderful landscape feature. So thank you for watching, and I'm going to try and compile as soon as possible some of the identification videos for the most common trees you'll find in our landscape for you to enjoy. But as regards to the S.T.A.F system, I hope you begin to apply it, and thank you very much.